Evening at 6 o'clock. Welcome to our Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, May 13th. The meeting has been properly posted. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mrs. Eckhart? Present. Mrs. Yank?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mrs. Sapersky?
Here.
Mr. Sprague?
Here.
Dr. Khan?
Here.
And I am present.
Thank you for that. If we could all stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Made by Mrs. Yank, seconded by Dr. Khan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Great. We have community comment. Participants under this agenda item must be residents of the Franklin Public School District or parents, guardians of Franklin Public School students, must state for the record their full name and address, must limit their statements to 3 minutes with a maximum of 15 minutes for any and all comment. If the community comment is related to an agenda item, the board may respond to that comment either at the end of community comment session or during the discussion of that agenda item. The board may not discuss a comment or question that does not relate to an agenda item per board policy. We have Brian Papenfuss and Jacob. I don't know which one of you wants to go first.
You speak into the mic right here?
Yep, you can have a seat or you can stand, whatever you're comfortable with.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jacob. I'm a graduate of Franklin Public Schools, former employee, and then my father, Brian Papenfuss, has been a math teacher at the high school since 1998. So I just wanted to take the time to kind of speak on some of my own background and as it pertains to what's going to be spoken here today. So when I was about 17 months old, I had contracted leukemia, childhood leukemia, and I started out with about an 80% chance of survival. I was then went through about 2.5 years of treatment, and then about 6 months after that plan had been fully enacted, and I was sent to monitoring. I had relapsed, so then that dropped to about 50% chance of survival and needing a bone marrow transplant. So to kind of prepare for that, the freighter in the medical college had provided me chemotherapy and full body radiation, which killed off almost my entire immune system prior to the bone marrow transplant, when the remaining cells ended up actually attacking and killing off any donor, anything donor received. So resulting in that failed transplant, I went down to about a 15% chance of survival, and it ended up being my dad's stem cells that ended up keeping me here today. After leaving the hospital, I was still fighting infections, and it was just as my immune system was recovering, it was by the grace of the school district to assure my dad that everything be okay to go provide for his son, and just how grateful our family is to be able to have that support from both the school district and our community to help me get better. Again, I know my dad's still yet to speak, but I just wanted to kind of share some background that now I'm coming up 20 years in remission in October, so I know that he's gonna kind of share some of more details about like the ways that the district had communicated with him about coming home and making sure that I was okay.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments for me?
Good job.
The easiest to sit. Probably don't need a mic, but. All right, so hi, my name's Brian Poppenfuss. As my son Jacob just told you, kind of his history, I want to relate that, how that's affecting my retirement. I've been a math teacher at Franklin High School for 28 years, since 1998, and I was a Franklin resident from 1998 to 2002, and I'm retiring this spring. I coached football my first 4 years and have coached wrestling every year that I've been here in Franklin. You've heard background information from my son about when he was fighting his leukemia. Well, when his survival rate dropped to 15%, I continued working while sleeping at the hospital every night and then waking up heading back to the high school for work. Eventually, Dr. Miller, our former superintendent and HR rep at the time, came to my classroom and asked why I was still there. I explained that it was all about making sure my family was taken care of, that I'd have the health insurance, I wouldn't lose that, and we'd have these astronomical bills. And her words were to go take care of my family and don't worry about a thing. As a result, she let other staff members donate sick days, and I was off the majority of the school year. After my sick days ran out, I was still covered. 7 years later, the school district came up with some numbers for the Tier 2 retirement as being 45 years old and 15 years in the district. I didn't turn 45 until March of that following year, or during that school year, so I wasn't old enough. But I was about to start my 16th year as a Franklin teacher, so I should have been good, right? Well, no. Because the district is not giving me credit for when my son was sick, even though I signed a contract and was paid for the entire year. Okay, again, covered by sick days and some donated sick days. I get no credit for something that was out of my control and that I wouldn't wish upon anyone else in this world. In the early 2000s, I gave up multiple pay raises to keep these benefits, and not getting them is kind of a shock to me. I wonder, do teachers on maternity leave who have extended absences covered by sick days getting paid? Are they docked part of their seniority with the district or not? How about the people I have donated sick days to? Do they not get a full year of service because I gave them sick days to cover when they had medical issues? I couldn't find anything in the handbook, and the one teacher that I know has used maternity leave a few times said that she assumed that she did, but she wants me to let her know anything I find out. I contacted the district, Andy, name slipping my mind now, but I contacted him yesterday around noon. I haven't heard back from him yet, but I mean, obviously everything's not a quick, easy response. So I don't have those answers yet. But I arrived with another math teacher. I'm leaving with that same math teacher. She's retiring this year as well. She gets Tier 2 benefits. Meanwhile, I'm getting what feels like a slap in the face and getting thrown in with all the teachers who are brand new when I had already had 14 years with the district. Or 15 years technically, 14 according to you guys. We used to have a strong quality work between our district and our teachers. Okay, a better place to work should include teachers in the decision-making processes. Okay, this isn't always the case, and it wasn't the case with tiers. Just kind of came up with these numbers. I'm sure teachers would have focused more on seniority and the people, making sure the people who gave up the raises would have been taken care of. Having no say in and feeling that the words will not be honored is not good for morale of staff. During my time, we lost two amazing math teachers who were actually Franklin grads. along with some other departments, lost Franklin grads as students. Okay, those should be our most committed and loyal employees because they have the pride in the school that they attended. And when this happens, it just might be another sign that we just need better communication and we need a better working relationship between staff and the district offices when it comes to making decisions that affect the classroom. I know that right now, as a result of the decision with the tiers that did not involve teachers, okay, I feel very unappreciated. And I did have a signed contract. I was paid the whole year, so I have no idea why I'm not valued enough to get that tier 2 retirement. That's all I wanted to point out. Anything from you guys? Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing.
We'll follow up.
Moving on, agenda item number 5, our health department presentation. We are happy to have our health department here with our students and their posters. Want to come on up?
Hello, my name is Megan Kramer. I work for the Franklin Health Department, and I am the coalition coordinator for Volition Franklin. I am excited to be before you again this year. You probably know the spiel as well as I do after these many years, but it is our 30th year of our Posters for Prevention tobacco poster contest. So we have some really great students with us this year. Every year, we as the health department and Volition go into the 7th grade class at Forest Park Middle School, and we give the students a presentation that's evidence-based. This year, we've shifted to the Stanford Tobacco Toolkit, so it's all kind of a pre-made, kid-friendly, evidence-based program. And they receive education on the history of commercial tobacco, how it is kind of being marketed to entice kids, mental health we've incorporated this year and how they can use healthy coping mechanisms. But basically, we give them all the information, and then we ask our students to take that information and to put it into a poster, a colorful poster that is about 10 words or less, that if students in the school were walking past, that they could quickly walk past it, view the message, understand that they should stay away from commercial tobacco products in a visually cool manner. So we had 2 students at the Indian Community School and 10 students here at Forest Park Middle School that are winners for this 30th year. So I'm very excited to present them, and I will ask the students behind me if they could grab your posters out of the manila envelopes, and we can just kind of walk around, show the school board members the wonderful pieces of art that you have created. And then we can also show our families in the crowd too. I'll leave the chart, because sometimes being first can be scary if you want, and we can just kind of form. If you want to lead, amazing. And then just kind of slowly go around. We'll show everybody. Grab some pictures.
I saw your poster in the other room and I
Wow, it's so detailed.
looks good.
Awesome.
Built on a line.
So amazing.
Box growth.
Great artwork.
And
message.
Yours is so detailed, like,
Wow,
it feels like it's almost Where's Waldo, like,
Very
really
good.
study it
I
for a
really like
while.
that.
Nice, good job. All right, escape to this air,
That's a good
not
one.
this air. Sends a pretty clear message,
Great.
very good. Be tough, don't pop, I feel like that's a goal setting
that.
one.
Oh, very
The
nice.
flowers on muscles.
Zen
Ooh, I like that
moment.
one. I like the, yeah, the
Yeah.
outline, very cool.
Come on down.
Good job, guys.
And then I will mention too, something really cool about being able to do this in the community is we're fortunate enough to be able to use the funding at the city that comes from tobacco stores licensing fees. So we take that money and we're able to put it towards prevention in our community. And then the students that have won all receive a $100 gift card for their efforts.
Yay.
Have them come over and take
Should we,
a
let's do a
picture.
picture in front of the Franklin screen. Board members, if you want to join.
we're gonna kind of squish together. Megan, you need to. I'm gonna go on this thing. You might need to make 2 rows of students.
Last picture taken.
Yeah, we don't wanna play.
Okay.
You guys just step forward and we'll see if there's support behind us.
There we go, good job.
Look at that. Wait, until I get front.
I'll go in the window.
Left.
All right.
Congratulations.
So it's like being famous.
Congratulations, guys.
Good
Good
job
job.
for sharing that with us.
Got treat bags for you all too. Ooh, treats. Pretzels. Here we go. Coming out.
Yeah. We pulled it up from the picture. So there's too much in the way.
Better.
Okay, moving on, agenda item number 6, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sprague, second by Mrs. Yank. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our school board calendar. We have the business partner breakfast next week, Tuesday, May 19th at Ascension Hospital at 7:30. FHS Honors Night next week, Wednesday, May 20th at FHS at 6:30. We have the district retirement dinner next week, Thursday at Lux Golf at 5:30. We have a regular Board of Education meeting on Wednesday, May 27th at 6 o'clock here at the ECC. We have a regular Board of Education meeting on Wednesday, June 17th here at the ECC at 6 o'clock. And then high school graduation at American Family Field on June 20th at 4 o'clock. District Administrator update, Dr. Bannon.
All right, excellent. We just got done celebrating the ribbon cutting this afternoon, right before this meeting, of the Save Station donated by Zoll out by the Community Education and Recreation Building. So thank you for the board for being present. Great representation of community coming together with the district with safety in mind. And thank you to Andy Daniels and Shannon Antoine, who did majority of the setup and getting everything organized for this wonderful opportunity for our community. Also today, we had a signing day at the high school of kind of a new sort. Usually we associate signing days with sports. This was more with the trades. CD Smith has signed a youth apprentice that will start mid-June with them and be working directly on site at the high school. The student will be a senior next year, so it'll be really neat to not just work on the school that he goes to, but actually be a part of that project next year. And CD Smith has also said they'll bring on youth apprenticeships throughout the project. So the plus of a 3-year project is we should have many YAs going through the program. Next week is a week of celebrations. So on Wednesday, the 20th, we have our senior honors night. On Thursday, we have our FPS retiree dinner at Lux Bays. So thanking all of our retirees for their years of dedication. On Tuesday of next week, Andy Thompson hosts the FPS Business Partners Breakfast. This is a wonderful opportunity for many of our learners to share their experiences that they've had this year through job shadows, youth apprenticeships, internships, and also bring those business partners in to see some of that work at hand. Our autos program will kind of be the showcase next week for that. Next week, also 5th grade celebrates their transition to middle school with their 2 days at camp. So this is also a great opportunity for all 5 elementary schools to come together, students to start interacting with their whole class as they enter into Forest Park next year. So thank you to all the staff that helped plan that. The PE teachers have a big part in that, the administrators. Stephanie and Amanda with us tonight through teaching and learning. It takes a joint effort, but it's a really great 2 days and a lot of parents and community members that volunteer to make it happen. And then our Franklin Community Series at the Saber Center this Friday is Mutt's Gone Nuts. It's back by popular demand. It's at 7 p.m. There are still some tickets available, so if you're looking for something to do, it was a great hit last year. Any questions, let me know.
Excellent, thank you. We have school board liaison reports. Anybody?
I liaised with Mr. Daniels this morning, but we'll hear all about that.
I dropped off coffee at Ben Franklin, my school, for teacher appreciation.
Oh, that's very nice, Mary.
And then, we also got to hand out awards for the Optimist Club at Robinwood, which was a lot of members, so it was really nice, and lots of very good handshakes. So learning how to give good handshakes.
That's an important skill.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other liaison reports? School or community reports?
I went to a volition meeting on Monday, so that was always good to feel like we're addressing smoking
Those
and
needs.
other things in the community.
Okay, excellent.
I attended the concert for Southwood Glen, grades 1, 3, and 5. And the theme was, US, we all united. And it was so refreshing to see all the kids, mostly wearing the red, blue, and white. And all the songs were about unity. And it refreshed me that although we might have different accents, Southern, Louisiana, or whatever it is, we are all American, and that was the theme, which was very refreshing to me. Yeah, really enjoyed the concert. Yeah.
Thank you. Sticking with that musical theme, I was happy to be at the WSMA State Solo Ensemble 2 weeks ago, where a number of our high school students participated at the state level. We did come back with a number of exemplary performances, which is exciting. And then our theater kids last night were down at the Skylight Theater downtown Milwaukee at an event showcasing the high school musical theater around the community, where they all got to perform a couple different songs. So it was a pretty exciting event for our students to be able to perform on a professional stage. So a lot of Sabre pride, it sounds like, around the district. So thank you. Moving on, reports, presentations, and other business. We will have Mrs. Pound for our 4K to 12th grade literacy update.
And you guys can probably all grab snacks, because the kids, there's lots of snacks.
Nice. Everybody gets a snack for being here tonight. I'm sorry, Miss Jewel, too. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I'll just tag along. It's all good.
Yes, I don't know.
I think it's on.
It's on
Green.
already. We're good. I can see green. Apparently I can't see colors this evening. All right, thank you, everybody. We are here to give you your annual 4K through 12 literacy report. Really the Act 20 pieces, 4K through 3rd, as per that Act 20 state statute that you learned all about last year. And then Ms. Jewel is here to just do a quick review with you over our stage 1, let me rephrase that, over our areas or departments that are focused in our stage 1 curriculum review for this year. So we decided to kind of couple that together to give you, that isn't something we haven't traditionally done, but we decided that we felt like it would be an appropriate space for us to just talk about all things curriculum and for you to hear like the wonderful work that we're doing in our curriculum continuous improvement cycles. So in terms of our 4K through 12 literacy report, last year I kind of went through all of the core tenets with you of Act 20 that, right, we have a benchmark screening 3 times a year. We do diagnostic testing. From that, any student who flags before the 25th percentile, they qualify for a personalized reading plan and all the systems that we put into place as that, and then the reflections from that. So this year is kind of our first year of like really being embedded in the process, and I will say it was much better than last year. Like we put a lot of energy into this last year, and for all good reasons, but it was really refreshing this year to have a system moving and flowing and not to have constant contact around Act 20. Many good things are happening. We have focused on training around the science of reading for our teachers. We just completed our first year of that. We had launched it a year ago in April. We had 4 specific training sessions this year that would include a large group format into a small group. So large group being all K through 5 teachers, 6 through 12 cross-cat teachers, EL teachers, school psychologists, so a big group coming together. We wanted to focus on a large group and a community around learning, around science of reading. Then based off of feedback, we pivoted and added a small group format. So we brought our teachers into grade level teams, content teams to do further learning. And feedback has been very positive on that, and we will continue with that format for 3 more sessions for next year. And then we, as a district, will be in compliance around that specific part of the statute. I don't want to say it's compliance because we've done a lot of learning around it, and we're seeing teachers apply that in their classroom, especially at that K-3 level, where we're really getting in that early literacy piece, like getting readers where we need to get students right away to act quickly about that. So that's a quick overview on Act 20. That's a whole section of this report. Are there any further questions around Act 20 and just K through 5 literacy? You can see the amount of personalized reading plans we currently have where we're hovering. We are in a different space than we were last year, and a different group that is kind of our hotbed versus last year. So that is just something we continue to learn, and our Ames Web data has been really interesting to look at because the difference between Ames Web and MAP is Ames Web identifies skill, where that area of need is based upon skill. So that is important data and actionable data that our teachers can use right away within their classroom. In terms of 6-12, we are in and K-5, I should say, we're in year 2 of our ELA implementation with Savvis, My View, My Perspectives, and then that pre-AP curriculum at the high school. It's important to note that last year at the high school, we focused on pre-AP 1. They got up and running. This year now is the first year pre-AP 2. So our teachers spent time in that zone, collaborating, working with coaches to get those units up and going for our students. In terms of Savvis, we continue with professional development around that, honing in specifically on small groups, as I referenced in the board report. So looking at our ELA block and not only having whole group instruction, but then small group instruction, what does that look like in literacy-specific format that as related to Savvis and My View and the many resources that it offers. We chose, prior to Miss Jewel and I, but we chose as a district Savvis My View because it has like a cornucopia of resources that students can, teachers can utilize with their students to meet a multi-variety of needs. I would say one area that we continue to work and hone in on is how do I pull those resources? Because there are so many. It is very rich and diverse in the offerings that the resource has, which is very different than what we had from before. So we continue to hone in on that and what does that mean for teachers, students within the classroom, and how do I utilize not just the whole group lesson, but how do I utilize those resources in small group to meet needs for students? Are there any questions on K-12 literacy? Yes.
Just generally, you have set targets of 60% of students testing proficient throughout the year, right? I'm reading that correctly? Do you foresee yourself increasing that goal as the curriculum becomes more implemented?
That 60% is across ELA and math, like, so it's not just specific to literacy, and it is a benchmark that we've had for how many years?
A long time, so
Yeah.
on those assessments, that was set way back when the 60 percentiles on maps predicting what would be proficient on forward. So there's a difference between, I think, proficient and kids not scoring below that 25th. So then Act 20 came out and it was all about the 25th percentile. So kind of moved the same discussion in different numbers, for lack of a...
So we're
Does that
still
make sense?
focusing on student growth and the amount of growth that they make in a year's time. So that 60% mark is really based on the amount of growth that a student can make. I think I put it in here for you too at the top of one of the tables. I need to, or maybe I didn't, maybe that was last year's that it was on. But that's really what Dr. Moe is talking about is it did come from MAPS and we're trying to translate that into Ames as we continue to learn more about Ames. They're not apples to apples assessments. In fact, I would argue that Ames probably provides us with better data and more tangible, usable data than MAP. But we are used to MAP. That's something we've had for many, many years. And so we are still learning and growing on what Ames gives us and what this all means and the correlations of what we did before and where we're going in the future with that.
Is there a world in, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, did we make the right choice in picking Savvis? So I'm looking for you, I'm wondering if you can point me to some data that says, yes, this measure has improved since we've implemented this new curriculum. Or if it hasn't, we project that we will start to see that movement if we pay attention to this. Do you understand what I'm asking?
Understood, yes. I think you want a tangible outcome to the resource that we chose.
Yeah.
As I kind of stated before, it's not just about the resource, it's about also the actions that we take in regards to science of reading and how we are teaching our students how to read. And so right now, we're only in year 2, and if we think about how we were teaching students to read before, we are using a method that is no longer considered one that is right, that is tangible in terms of the science of reading. So I think it's hard for me to say at this time that Savvis is the right or wrong curriculum because we've only been doing it year 2 while we're learning more about high leverage routines we can utilize in the classrooms, while we're learning about how writing is different now versus when we were using Lucy Culkin's units of study. I think that's something that we will continue to investigate as we go while we learn about what does whole group instruction mean versus small group instruction versus intervention time. All of those pieces, I just think it's too soon for us to say, yes, this way or no, this way. I believe in the curriculum. I think the curriculum provides us everything that we need, in addition to like Haggerty and some of the other supplementary resources that we kept already, that we kept with us as we adopted this curriculum. But we also have to learn how to use it. We also moved from a very prescribed, this is how we teach it at this day, at this time, because that's how that curriculum was written, to now looking at teachers and saying, you have professional knowledge. It's called integrity versus fidelity of curriculum. You have the professional knowledge to pick and choose what you feel your students need based on your classroom data. Well, to be frank, that can be hard because if I've been told how to teach something for many, many years, and then someone's coming in and saying, wait a minute, and I've heard fidelity, 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 it has to go like this. And now we're saying, well, it's integrity, and you went to school to be a teacher, and you have the professional knowledge. That is a shift, and it's a change, and it creates an uncomfortable state because you've been doing something for so many years, and now we're saying, all right, look at this vast resource. These are where you're going to choose. And so that's the challenge we've had this year in terms of like small group learning around literacy and reading and how our teachers are planning, what data they're using, and then what do I use from the resource to meet the need within the classroom? Because what's good for one might not be the same for another. So I know that like answers it but doesn't answer your question, but I just feel like that would be premature for me to say, yes, at this time, this is where we're going to be, when it's not just about the curriculum, it's about relearning how we teach reading.
I hear what you're saying, and I love that all of this work is going on. But I'm gonna keep asking the question
Sure.
because I'd hate for 5 years down the road to be in a place where we say, well, we kept waiting for the payoffs to happen or 10 years down the road, and I guess they didn't. You know what
But
I'm saying?
I would argue we know more already now than we did before, just by
Then
Ames
you have to
testing.
provide us that data.
And you have that in the board report. Like we
Okay.
are providing literacy data, we're providing the data around our personalized reading plans, which are less than last year. So
Great, that's
So-
there's an example for me. That's
Yeah,
all I need.
we can
That's something that's
continue
getting
as a
better.
teaching and learning department to try to find a tangible for you.
Yeah.
But I guess it's hard because it's not apples to apples. I can't compare how Lucy Culkin's and units of study was taught to Savvis, my view, and Haggerty, and using high leverage routines to teach reading. They're not comparable, but we can continue to hone in on those data pieces for you to at least compare from last year to continue from year to year to see if that is
Thank you.
the tangible reward there. Yes.
So
I'm just looking at this where the students struggle with multisyllabic vocabulary, intricate syntax, acquisition of high-level background knowledge. Obviously, you've only had this program, as you said, for 2 years, so all these kids are coming in with the other, having learned from the other program. Is there a measure here that students are more proficient with these multisyllabic?
Sure, with
You know,
vocabulary,
vocabulary, how do we
basically,
measure-
and acquisition, so
Yeah.
that's a secondary, that's our work in secondary of science of reading, and that's year one. So this year, we focus in the secondary land from 6-12 on vocabulary, how we learn how to acquire vocabulary, what it means to have indirect and direct vocabulary instruction. We don't have data to say, at this point in time, here's a tangible outcome of that work. But the reason for that work, again, is rooted in how children learned how to read. And in order to if we think about standardized tests such as ACT, so on and so forth, I have to be able to read a passage, look at a word, and be able to take apart that word and know what it means, even if I've never encountered it before. Because vocabulary knowledge is something that constantly grows. It doesn't stop. And so the goal with that is for us to be explicit in our teaching so that when I'm in whatever discipline I'm in and I encounter a word, I have the tools to start to dissect that word so that I have the background knowledge to be able to understand what I'm reading. So we've just completed a first year of that 3-year plan on that. So I don't have any like here to here. What I can tell you is about the learning that we've engaged in. I hope I can say something next year more about that.
And then I just kind of, with the physical education, I should know more about how that ties into what you're talking about, but how does physical education classes or curriculum, what does that entail? I should know, but I don't.
Yeah, so that's like kind of the secondary piece of this report, right? So I worked with 3 different teams this year on our like formalized curriculum review process. So we have come to the agreement that our goal is to formally review the curriculum in a given department every 7 to 8 years. So we mapped that all out. So that part of the report is just letting you know the 3 teams that I worked with this year on that stage 1. So stage 1 of our curriculum review process is really focused on like, what is our identity? So what is the mission and vision of that particular subject area in terms of what they want students to know and be able to do when they leave Franklin Public Schools? We look at data. So like with the business team, that's a secondary team. So our business classes 6-12. So we looked at the data from Forest Park. Are we meeting students' needs there? Are we meeting students' needs at the high school? And then we talk about what courses we offer and do we need to be revising the courses themselves or are we digging deeper into like the stage 2 or stage 3? So the alignment of that curriculum to standards, the assessments we're asking students to engagement or the actual day-to-day learning. So that was just the overview piece of like the work that I did with the PE department. So I worked with those 3 teams, the 4K team, the PE team, and the business team this year.
And how does that correspond to literacy?
It doesn't.
It's just as I stated at the
I was
beginning.
like trying to find out like what
Yeah.
are they doing? Okay,
As I
so it's
stated at the
nothing to do with
beginning,
literacy.
it's an opportunity for us to, and it says at the top of the agenda for us is like K3 literacy and curriculum. We're choosing to give you more than that. State statute says K3 literacy, Act 20 update. We're choosing to provide you with like K12 literacy update and then a curriculum update so you can start to hear what's happening in the curriculum department and teaching and learning on a regular basis, at least at a yearly. You see the outcomes, so like in fall when we come with a course proposal, that's the work that Ms. Jewell starts in stage 1 with those teams. What is our current offerings? What do we have? Is there diversity in the offerings and the types of things that we are providing for students and actions and opportunities? Then I'll come in fall and say, here are our new courses along with Ms. Jewell, and we will detail, and that's some of the tangible outcomes you'll see. You might see next year in 4K us coming to you and saying, 4K would like to adopt this resource. They'll be piloting resources next year. So those are the outcomes from from stage 1 as we move into stage 2 of our curriculum continuous improvement cycle.
So hopefully it provides a little bit of a preview of like, oh, I might expect to see this team coming forward with a resource or with an update to courses or whatever.
And it provides you with a little bit more deeper outcome of like what we're doing with teams in teaching and learning as it regards to curriculum versus here's the random, we're coming to you with course proposals or this pilot. Now you're going to know where it started to potentially anticipate that then next year at this time, we might be here talking about something different in what the 4K team might need. Or we're engaging next year, first year in math, which will be a 3-year process. Then we'll be coming to you at some point with math to say, hey, here next year at this time, this is what we've done, and then here's a potential outcome from that. So just trying to close the communication loops around that for you all. Yes.
For the ELA map achievement for grade 5th and 6th, from 5 to 8, the number of students increased, and I'm assuming the red bar is for the students under less than 25.
Mm-hmm.
So did the number of students increase? Because I think in fall it was 5.9 and spring it's 8.2. So the number of students who are below 25 increased?
Correct. As you look at that. Also, though, I do want to just remember that depending upon norms and how those tests are norm referenced will impact how we also perform. So last year, no, not for MAP, sorry, excuse me, that was Ames Web Plus. Yes, you're correct. We increased in the bottom 25% from 5.9 to 8.2.
And the same thing for the Ames Web for grades 2 and 3.
So in grades 2 and 3, the norms increase in winter and in spring. So when they start out the fall, there's base level norms, and then as we go throughout the school year, yes, there is a change there, but also we have to know that this is our first year with new norm referencing in terms of Ames Web Plus. So the norms that you saw last year with Ames Web Plus are different than this year. So the test results last year that I gave you don't, again, not apples to apples. I know I'm coming to you in front of you to say, hey, that's not apples to apples, but those are also decisions that are made from those testing companies when they do a whole review of their norm, and they renormed since, what was it, 2019, I think was the last time that they renormed. So these are new norms since our whole COVID year and all of those. So next year, when I come to you next year, you'll see comparison data. I can't give you comparison data right now between 24, 25, or sorry, 25, 26, and 26, 27. I can't give you 24, 25, and 25, 26 because they don't correlate.
I think, so I think to simplify in the future, we'd like to see the number of students less than 25 decreasing.
Correct.
As the year goes from fall to spring, not increasing or stagnant.
We agree.
Okay.
We agree. But that is our work around intervention and around ELA small group.
Yeah.
The things that we're working on, that's where we're pouring our resources in so that we can improve meeting, especially that small amount of students that we really have to have intensive interventions. So we've increased our assessment workbook and what we offer for interventions. It is important to note that at the middle school level, there are not as many to choose from as there are at the elementary level. So our interventionist, mainly Missy Buss at the middle school, has been great about piloting resources, looking to see what we can so that we have opportunities to meet students where they truly need to be met at, and not providing an intervention that is not going to meet their personal needs.
And since you touched based on maths, because nationally, I think I was listening on different shows and reading about it, that math also has decreased. In fact, they talk about growth recession from math perspective. So I'm hoping that this literacy aspect will also help with the math growth in the future.
Agreed. We have to learn how to read in order to be able to read what's in front of us in our math classes. Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
the work that
everybody.
you're doing. Thanks for being here tonight. Take a treat bag.
What, pardon?
Take a treat bag.
Yeah. I'm at a certain stage in life where I really shouldn't take a break. So, thank you.
Daniels has joined us now for our Buildings and Grounds annual report.
All right, good evening. I don't know if Chromie, if you're gonna pull this up on the big screen, but I think you all might have that in front of you. But yeah, just as we do annually, giving you a Buildings and Grounds update. I really wanted to start with those couple of additions in our staffing that we had over the last couple of years. As you guys recall, we added our HVAC tech a couple of years ago, and that's been very, very successful. Specifically around the reactive maintenance. So if you recall, for our preventative maintenance program, it was costing us over $210,000 a year. We knew that we could save about $65,000 annually by bringing an HVAC tech in-house with him doing the PMs, but we also knew that he would have some opportunity to do other things in the district. One of the things we found out about Ed was he is into auto maintenance. He was on a race team, right? So he actually has taken over like fleet maintenance. Just this morning, we decided to take over the band trailer maintenance. I'm looking at you, Ann. He's gonna take all that on, but there's a lot of things that I can't list, like plumbing and things like that, but just in reactive maintenance alone, since he was hired, we're at about $84,357 saved through cost avoidance by not outsourcing some of the work that he was doing. So that's on top of the additional $65,000 annually by doing our own preventative maintenance and doing it at a high level at the same time. So that's been very, very successful. He's doing a great job, and he jumps in on just a lot of random things, even like in urgent situations. So the one that, this is the first time we're having this on the B&G report, but this year we were successful in finding an electrician. Sean joined us just in late December. Really his first full month was January. So I really have 4 months worth of data. But yeah, that's been successful as well. We recognize we're not gonna see as much savings as we would with the HVAC position, because we're not replacing an electrician with an electrical preventative maintenance program, because that didn't exist. However, that is being built now. But we knew that through maintaining electrical systems such as our cameras and door access systems, our generators, just the actual electrical systems, lighting systems, so on and so forth, by not outsourcing all of that work related to those systems, that we could save some money and obviously be able to respond to those situations a lot quicker and restore those systems a lot quicker, okay? So far, he saved us this is through cost avoidance. He saved us $13,555 per month, resulting in his first 4 months of $54,220. So that means within a year, he's not only gonna make up his salary and benefits, but he's also going to, if everything stays the course, he will also show a savings. There's always like some fun stories, and I have some of those with Sean's work. So we knew that, again, we were getting a good electrician. He's one of 4 out of, I think, a dozen people that actually passed the test we gave. But we also saw in his resume that he was a millwright. A millwright is somebody that can work on machinery. So if you're in a factory, you have somebody operating those machines, but then you need somebody to maintain those machines and work on those machines. We wanted an electrician, but now that he's got his feet wet and he's starting to learn the district, we approached the high school, Joey Jonas, who oversees the CT or the technical or trades department. They had approached me a couple years ago and was like, hey, is there anything we can do? We have a lot of needs just in the metal shop. Who can work on those? We supported by outsourcing some of those things. Now that Sean was, in the district, kind of settling in, we met with Joey and then Noel, and we found that there was a lot of things that needed to be done in that metal shop. I would say, like off the top of my head, I believe there were 6 to 7 pretty critical things. Sean was talking this machinist language with Noel that I can't speak, and they hit it off, and within a week, he had every single issue that she reported at that time resolved. And she continues now. I'm seeing work orders on machine equipment, with Sean's name next to it, she's targeting Sean, because we don't have that whole process figured out how those can funnel to him. But the other fun one is looking at kilns, right? They have exhaust fans. There are some electrical issues at the high school. While we were there, Gene Moore had mentioned to us, like, "Why you guys are here? Anybody know anything about a pug mill?" Never heard of a pug mill. It's a clay recycler, okay? She was fearing that we would have to replace that. Sean took a look at it and had it fixed within a day. So he's knocking it out of the park, and it's showing in that cost avoidance. So, and I can't imagine what other systems he can pick up as time transpires. One of my favorites is the utility update. That's one of my favorites because it's always successful. But we're just doing good things there. You know, eventually we're not gonna be able to show these great savings year after year because, you know, we're gonna plateau at some point. But we still saw a reduction in gas consumption, and obviously we're focused on consumption because costs are really uncontrollable. We have all the tools in place to control costs, but you know, those are gonna just continue to rise. So we're focused on consumption. Again, successful with gas this year. I didn't think we would see a huge reduction, but we still reduced our consumption by 9,000 therms. I contributed that to, again, very strict scheduling of our HVAC systems, as well as some of the updates that we're starting to do through the referendum and our capital projects, such as boiler replacements. But costs did go up, so besides all those efforts, we still saw an increase. But I was still expecting much higher because of our colder winter. Electrical, that went down significantly. I won't go into the numbers as much, but we really owe that to, again, same thing, strict scheduling with our HVAC systems, as well as LED updates, right? Now our district is completely LED, with the exception of portions of the high school that will be finished becoming LED once the project over there is completed. So those renovation areas, such as the science rooms and some of the face rooms. Water, if you remember last year, I said that was the rock in my shoe. It remains that way, but we did see a reduction, but we owe that to the pool coming offline. We do have a water consumption reduction initiative in place, so the data will hopefully be better next year, so. So here's really just, I have some bar graphs, right? It's just showing what I talked about. You'll see, like, again, this is cost. You'll see the cost drop pretty substantially with electrical, a slight increase with gas as mentioned, and that wonderful reduction in water for the first time since I've been on board. Consumption rate comparison, same thing. Consumption's lower on all of those from year to year. Water still had that increase from my benchmark year, which is 2022. Moving on to just projects, right? Capital projects, but I always like to share this slide of what we do. So if you like looking at this slide, you might ask yourself, what does OPS mean or what does DW mean? I have a key in that spreadsheet that I work off. DW stands for district-wide. OPS stands for operations, so operational dollars. So in this, you'll see either OPS 46 or CIP. OPS is operations, so fund $10, so that's our kind of reactive maintenance or funds that we budget for these systems. But it's important to understand that every year we put money aside for our asphalt, like crack filling, seal coating, roof repairs, maintenance on our fire systems, concrete, so on and so forth. But slide 10 then takes us into what has been completed through 2025 or in the 25-26 fiscal year. A lot of great things were done, a lot of great things coming off that big $96 million long-range plan that we have. If you see in the column on the right, I keep that, anything that's not fully completed, there's still funds there, we're still completing those, right? We still have a month and a half left to the fiscal year. So that's just the way that I work with the spreadsheet, because as I've told you in the past, it's ever evolving. It's my compass, so I'm constantly in there and working on it. But just to talk about a few items that are on here, we have flooring replacements with referendum dollars, but then we also have flooring replacements with capital dollars. We have kiln exhausts that were not really priority 2 or 1s in the referendum, but priority 2, so they didn't make the list, but we started feeling like there were some safety issues there, so we resolved some of those issues. Restriping the track was coming due. Building envelope survey and projects, so we know that there was dollars dedicated to building an envelope, and that's our brick and mortar to a lot of the buildings, but there was not brick and mortar funds dedicated to the ECC or Forest Park, but there are some things coming due there, so we're using our capital dollars to take care of some of the issues we find with the ECC and even the middle school already. So just a lot of good work. I don't think you want me to go through every single one of those, but those are some of the ones that really just popped out at me.
Can I add one thing in there, Andy?
Yeah.
Line 28 on this one is an 80th Street sanitary sewer assessment. So this is a great example of why Fund 46 and putting dollars away for long-term capital improvement projects helps. This was actually approached to us by the city. This is over by Zern, where they go south. There's the city building, 80th Street, then Zern, so this would go south on 80th Street. This was brought to us probably 2.5 years ago that this was potentially gonna happen. We never heard anything about it since, and all of a sudden a $139,000 bill showed up because they put the sewer line in there, and it's based on how much frontage of the road you have. And because it runs way south and we own all the property south of Zerd, we were tasked with a $139,000 payment. But a great example of putting money away for that long-term capital improvement projects, because otherwise we go to Andy and say, you have to cut $139,000 of CIP projects because we now have this bill that we didn't anticipate coming, but it's here and it's due. So that kind of forethought to create Fund 46 and plan for the future and put dollars away year over year helps with that.
So just to touch on that too, so you'll see like lines 1 through 27, that green column is CIP, right? So that's, if we didn't take our CIP funds and put it into Fund 46, where that's housed now, that would have just been capital dollars. But we know that we house those funds in Fund 46 now, but one of the tools that I use is, like breaking that out. I don't want to call it all CIP. I'm still focused on the 1.3 million, which you'll hear about later, the 1.3 million in CIP projects, but it's all housed in Fund 46, so that's why it's broken out as that. So basically, there's 2 projects there that we weren't expecting. The one that Andy just mentioned, and some pretty severe issues with the mound system and bases and things like that on the softball and baseball fields that it was unpredictable, so we used Fund 46 rather than CIP dollars for that. So upcoming year, and you'll see, like, if I look at slide 10 and 11, if I show you this slide 11 next year, that's gonna expand, right? I feel like I'm very conservative with the budget as far as predicting what something's going to cost. So most of the time I will see that something's gonna once I actually go out to bid, it'll come back better. So that creates some space for additional projects, so that ends up going from, say, 19 projects to possibly 29 like you saw in the last slide. But this year we're tackling more ADA stuff that was missed with some of the projects at PV. They were just like priority 2 stuff, so they didn't make the priority 1 list for whatever reason, so I'm tackling priority 2s, which is good news that we're able to do that. HVAC controls, again, at ECC, Ed and I are constantly trying to figure out what the right system is on that. There's locker banks, there's concrete projects always, not concrete repairs, but, well, there's concrete repairs that result in replacements, that's why that's on here. We're finally working in furniture replacements. If you take a look at around at some of the furniture, even stuff that was purchased recently up at the high school at that 2013 edition, some of that stuff needs to start getting replaced, and there's no funds for that, so we're working with our capital dollars to be able to replace some of that. But again, it's a long list, and again, when I report out next year, I expect that to be longer. And then slide 12, it's getting into, this is how I track the referendum actual dollars. I want to point out that this color in red, that's a tool that I use. That does not mean that we came like over budget on that. But you'll see a lot of red on this. There's a lot of different colors. It's my system. But that's actual cost to date. So we know that we went to referendum for $21.3 million for just capital projects. We turned right around 4 million of those over to C.D. Smith to manage, and the rest our buildings and grounds team and myself are managing. So I'm really looking at a $17.3 million, $17.3 million worth of funds to get all these tier or priority 1s off our $96 million list. That's the basics of that. But so far since we started spending those dollars, I've spent $5.5 million on those projects this year. Between approved contracts and projects that are about to become approved, we're looking at another 5.1 million, leaving about $7 million-ish left over the next 2 years. Because again, as I've mentioned a couple times, there's projects that we just want to hold off until 2028, like the Ben Franklin roof, which accounts for $1.5 million of that 17.3 million that I mentioned shortly ago. So there's that, and then just, I think this is good news, but between 2023 and 2025, between those capital dollars and Fund 46 projects, we took that, now non-referendum dollars, we took that 96 million down to $90.5 million. I don't necessarily have that exactly updated for the 2026 kind of calendar year, if you want, or fiscal year even, if you want to call it that. You'll hear a little bit more about that when we do the next presentation. But last year when I reported out, we were looking, I think, right around 55 million. We would see that $96 million maintenance or long-range plan where it was at 96 million. We were projecting about 55 million, but after re-updating that, we're now looking probably to be under 50 million. And again, that's just due to some of the efficiencies, tackling some priority twos because we were already doing priority ones, so we took advantage of some efficiencies there. Just really good, aggressive bidding process where we had a lot of people, specifically roof and building envelope, people bidding on that work. So it's fun to do walkthroughs with 5 roofing contractors or 4 building envelope contractors because they see who they're against and you know that they're eyeballing each other and know how they have to sharpen their pencils. So things like that really helped with whether it's capital, but even with those referendum dollars. And now I can take some questions if you have them.
Anyone?
I'm going to ask the question for the benefit of the board that you answered for me today. Basically, this all looks great. What are you worried about? What keeps you up at night?
So it's nothing really work related. I guess really what I'm finding.
This is not how you
That didn't
answer.
sound right. Well, it's not like my work or it's what and it is. But what I'm finding, and this is super interesting to me, is finding the right partnerships and contractors, right? Like you can go out to bid and you feel good that you vetted those contractors, right? They have to have so much insurance dollars. They have to show like, okay, I've done projects like this in this school district and that school district. But what I'm finding is whether it's custodial supplies, a flooring contractor, roofing, even some mechanicals with partnerships that you've had for decades, the craftsmanship's falling off, the communication's falling off, right? I like to think that a lot of baby boomers left the trades and they didn't really fully backfill those positions as well as they could. So it puts more work on the plate of the people that are still there, or the younger generation still has a lot to learn, right? So, I mean, we had issues with some of the flooring systems that went in, right? The manufacturer's happy to own that up, but even the manufacturer's product is not as good as it used to be, right? So that's the challenges that I wake up and I worry about. Community and board going into these buildings and seeing maybe, why is this floor chipped? Isn't this brand new? Well, we're working through that, but even the communication with a really good manufacturer, they're slipping up, right? And I'm just seeing it across the board with a lot of the trades. Even like, I mean, I have cleaning suppliers that jump and ship to the other cleaning supplier. Had great relationship with them when they were at that one. Now they're with the other one, and the communication slipped because I think they ended up getting more thrown on their plate. So I think there's a reason, but it's definitely something that slows a lot of my processes down because now you have a lot more follow-up, or you're not getting your proposals back as quick as you want, or you're constantly going back and asking questions about, did you think of this? Did you think of that? Where you never had to do that. So it just makes my job a little bit more complicated, slowing the process down where I would like to be further ahead if they didn't slow that process down. Sorry. Mary, I know you raised your hand.
Yeah, so you talked about things that you don't have to do tomorrow or even next year or 2 years from now. Obviously, you're factoring in the fact that it's going to be far more expensive to do down the road. And you're, like I said, I implicitly and inherently trust you, but, we have the funds that if something triples or, and we do have also catastrophic, like all of a sudden something just unexpected happens major with a building.
Yeah. So just to use the Ben Franklin roof example, all those it's gonna be the same 6 contractors being invited. So those contractors were vetted, and there's a lot of roofing contractors out there that will never be allowed to bid on projects in Franklin Public Schools while I'm here, right? Based on experiences, performance, and, you know, things like that. But these same 6 will always be invited back. And while, yes, roofing materials might go up at a certain percent, I wouldn't be worried about like I still think really that $1.5 million budget, I wouldn't make a promise, but it's probably gonna come in lower, right? That's still a conservative dollar, right, to manage. And, you know, we might be able to have a conversation someday and come back and say like, okay, Andy, like you had 17.3, but you're looking good here. Are we able to free up other funds for that? I don't think that concern that you're speaking of is gonna stop us from being able to have a conversation about what else we could do, because that 17.3 really is at maybe 16.75 or something, right? So I feel good about that, and I also feel good about some of those other projects that I didn't mention, like there's window replacements that are still gonna have to happen, right? We're doing some window repairs, and we're seeing how that goes, because that's part of building envelope. But if other issues arise, we still have those funds there for some window replacements, right? That's another big one that I'm holding some funds for. So those are examples, but I feel like it's budgeted well, and we can make it very competitive to really come under the budgets that were set. There are a couple that, it might be in the next presentation, but there's a couple things really that came in a little higher, and that's generator replacement. So we're gonna be, part of the referendum, generators came in at like $225,000 is what was budgeted, but they came in at like 255 and 260 or something. But that budget was set around not understanding what systems we were all gonna put on there, right? So by code, you want your fire systems, you want your boiler systems, basically. But we're doing boiler systems, fire systems, some kitchen outlets for kitchen equipment. We're doing IT, you know, rooms and things like that. So that, I think that's why that went up. But I haven't seen a whole lot that really came in over budget at this point, so.
And then just, you really hit the jackpot with Ed and Sean, it seems.
I think so.
Are you looking, is there any other plan to have another specialist or?
This is not a
Jack of all
conversation that
trades.
Andy and I had.
know, but I
You
just
said you
jumped out of
wanted
my seat
another
with
B&G
excitement.
director to one day?
What's that?
You wanted another B&G director, right?
I just got excited, Mary. That sounds awesome. We will certainly dive into it.
We haven't had a
Saving
personal
money,
conversation.
and it sounds a win-win-win.
Yeah. Anything else?
Any other questions for this report number 1? No. Thank you. Now let's go to report number 2. Our 10-year plan.
So we dove into some of this already, but just to revisit, why should we have a capital improvement plan? And it's all here, but it creates a better budgeting process. There's predictability of what's coming. It allows us to pivot if something does surprise us, and we've had those, right? But without that 10-year plan, without what I call my compass, without the data, it would be far more difficult to be able to get the right capital improvement projects done, right? So that's why we have it, and because of that, again, DPI gives us that tool to do that Fund 46 that the district started years ago. As you would know, that budget actually increased from 1.286, I believe it was, or 1.29 to 1.3, so I appreciate Andy Cromie seeing the value, increasing that, which ultimately the board sees that value and allows us to increase that a little bit each year. Does it keep pace with inflation? No, but it's better than going backwards, which some districts have to do, right? So at a budget of 1.3 million, this past fiscal year that you saw, just alone with those Fund 46 and CIP dollars, it was really 1.4 that I oversaw. So we went over a little bit because of the sanitary sewer lines on 80th Street and the baseball field issue. But it's really 1.93 was spent out of Fund 46, and that included some of that technology that Luann oversees. So really it was 1.9 that came out of Fund 46. So this next slide and the next few really is just screenshots of the 10-year plan. I think that's necessary so that you guys can actually approve that in the next board meeting. But that, again, it just takes through like this current year, the last year, and the next 10 years what we're gonna target, right? But it gets pretty high level the further we get down, right? While we have that long-range plan that I will continue to build this off of, the work doesn't really change, as you get deeper into the plan, so like the 30-31 fiscal year, right? That's gonna be just broken down simply. So it's gonna be asphalt, it's gonna be roof replacements, it's gonna be mechanical replacements. Those are never going away, right? As well as we're doing right now in this moment of time with those referendum dollars and still with these capital dollars, there's gonna be new systems that come forward, so. But then, so I'm down to slide 4, 5, and now we go into 6, where you guys already approved this from my understanding, but this is what Luann provides to myself and Cromie to all house in this 10-year plan so that we can submit that for approval from the state to continue to use Fund 46 as that tool. But yeah, so this is what Luann predicts out on an annual basis and updates on an annual basis. And then teaching and learning, which Amanda has a part of, because as we know, teaching and learning can fall into Fund 46 as well for those big curriculum costs. Then we get to that $96 million plan, that capital plan. As you can see, this was the update from last year. If you look up under, you got the priority 1s, 2s, and 3s. If you kind of follow that down and go over a little to the left, you'll see that we're at 90.5 million, right? So we shaved off well over $5 million. That's come down, but it's somewhat complicated when I don't, this is the actual plan. I have my working and hypothetical plan that I feel comfortable taking those items off of that, but until really some of these projects are complete, I'm not taking it off of this one, so that's where we sit right now is 90.5. If we go to the next slide, we covered that, right? We went from 96 to 90.5. You're gonna see in the next slide that, again, if I work off my hypothetical, we're well under 50, or we're under 50 now. So if we go to that next slide, there it is. My hypothetical
Good build up,
shows.
Andy.
What's that?
That was a good build up.
It's difficult because we covered some of this like in the other presentation, but 49.5, right? Now, again, that's based on all the capital that we put in the last couple of years and the 17.7. This does account for the money that I haven't spent yet, right? It's again, like I'm taking a look at this and saying, these projects are queued up, they're not done, I can take that off. I see it, looking at our 10-year plan, I'm gonna be tackling X, Y, and Z, I can take that off. But then I'm gonna be honest with you, there's projects in that plan that I think we're tackling, but I didn't feel comfortable taking those off. So I see this coming down slightly more, maybe to the 47, 48-ish area. But then as my work continues, I will be looking at our roofing systems, our HVAC systems, and other systems like flooring and things like that, that maybe were priority 2s or 3s, or weren't even in this plan because they were, 13 years out, right? They wouldn't fit into a 10-year plan, but they're gonna come into it. But the good news is it's not like we shaved off 40, 50 million. It's not like as I start adding those systems back, we're adding 50 million back, right? It's gonna be $1 million here, $1 million there. It just feels way more manageable now, thankful for all the work we did to get that referendum passed and the support from the community to knock that down like we did. And then that's the final slide.
Go ahead, Mike.
So we upped the budget for buildings and grounds to 2.3, I don't remember the number.
For CIP is about 1.3, Andy's normal operating budget is somewhere between 1.4, 1.5, somewhere in that range.
So my memory is that number for normal operations is based on square footage, roughly based on square footage.
So, all of our departments do a zero-based budgeting, so Andy goes through, he gets $0 when he starts thinking about 26, 27, he's gotta go through and think, I need to do all of these things, I need to do plowing and salt, and this is what I'm expecting it to cost. And then he brings that to me and we take a look at it and say, yep, we can run with that, or this is what we'll start with, and all of our departments do that particular piece. In terms of square footage, probably the main thing we use square footage for is custodial work and how do we apportion custodians, right? And so we've already had some internal conversations, both Andy and I, Anna Lee and I, about when the new building that's being put up right now comes online and adds 250,000 square feet, we're gonna need additional custodians just because it's there. Like, nothing other than it's gonna cost more in utilities because it's there. It's gonna cost more in bodies just to clean it and maintain it on a daily basis because it's there. So we're already working to start thinking about what does 27, 28 look like and how many custodians are we slotting in? So when you see the 27, 28 budget next January, that will already be accounted for, even though that building won't be up online until the summer.
Thank you. That was a good question, Mike, knowing that that's where you're going. And we're also looking at what equipment we can purchase to not have to bring on a bunch more custodians, right? So robotic scrubbers is a big one. I was not sold on those years ago when they first came out, but they've come a long way. There's a lot of different options now.
Paint
So,
stripers,
yeah.
robotic paint
Yeah, we
stripers,
bought- Yeah, yeah.
like for fields.
Oh.
You plot courses and it's just like the Roomba in your house. You plot the course, you put it out there and it goes and paints the soccer field lines or paints lacrosse or paints a football field. Like it,
So that's
really
the
pretty
work-
cool.
Talking about striping the hallways, I didn't realize that we had.
No.
Traffic
It's
lanes
not
in
like
the
a
hallways.
it's not like a hospital where blue tells you you're going here and
That's what
pink
I'm
tells you you're going
So
there.
we are moving forward with that specifically because of the circ fields, because of natural turf. And then we're gonna try to use that same robot to stripe our, like, parking stalls and things like that. So it's there. I've seen it work. I just gotta train the right person to use it, so.
You probably won't have an answer for this, but it might be a fun thing to think about. So the $96 million over 10 years was not, it was an insurmountable amount, right? It felt like too much, but it's never gonna be zero. So I guess my thought experiment challenge for you for next year would be, what is a reasonable amount over 10 years? Like when we get our 10-year capital improvement projects number down to 35 million? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
would-
feel about right. I don't know.
I would say the ideal state would be 1.3 million per year, right? So, but that is interesting.
good
Yeah, yeah.
I-
But it won't ever, yeah, it would not even be there, right? Like, I feel good with it just seeing it at 49, right? But I will take that challenge.
Okay.
I would say the dollar amount, probably more utility, like where the dollar amount is less important than do we have the plan in place and thought process to do that. So does Andy have his roofing plan in place? Like, do we have all the plans for everything we have to do in place? And having that done and trying to plan that out and making sure that we're cognizant that it exists, right? Because at any given time, the roof here could get penetrated by something and we need to fix it, and it just is what it is. And so the dollar amount, while important, I think is making sure we have the plan in place and that we can communicate and figure out, is it doable? And making sure we feel comfortable doing the vast majority of it, or, whatever portion, versus always having to think about, we're gonna try to get another year out of a whole bunch of things, versus we're gonna try to keep them on track and do them when we're supposed to do them.
Which, to that point, we have a lot of our systems surveyed now, so we have that data. There's still a few out there, but all the critical pieces are surveyed and we know what we have. So, Mary?
I didn't look at every single bullet point there, but is insurance in there somewhere? I mean, our buildings must be insured, right?
Yep, so that's taken care of, Andy does not take care of
Oh,
that.
okay.
So I take care of that particular
Oh.
component. So yes, they're all insured. We have deductibles, just like your homeowner's insurance and things like that. Really truthfully, very few things actually ever touch insurance, right? Because it has to be some sort of event that happens to touch insurance. But we do have it, certainly. Like logistically, when we had the tornado, like early in April, like anytime it is an entirely straight line, the only line I truly worry about is going west to east, straight through the ECC, hitting the middle school and hitting the high school. Like, that's the one that bothers me the most, like, where is it? Because that could take out 3 buildings. It would be really hard, based on where the others are located and how weather typically comes in Wisconsin, to hit other buildings, but this one is in a straight line.
Angie, I changed my answer, what keeps me up at night?
Yeah, I was just.
We're all wrong.
But
Yeah, I know
to speak a
directions
little
are
bit,
due.
to insurance, I work with our insurance company, especially like surveying our tech ed areas. This year, talking about surveying and knowing what our systems are, I worked with them and another company, but I asked our property insurance company to come out and survey our concrete so they can look for those unsafe, like trip hazards and cracks and things like that. So I have two companies working on that. One was our insurance provider, and now, once I get their full plan and the other company's plan, like now our concrete's surveyed, and we know what we have, and we can tie that into the 10-year plan, so.
So, when we talk about unexpected, big, God forbid, any events which will require big investment and repair, does the insurance cover that, or do we still have to plan that we'll have to still pay out of Fund 10 or Fund 46? How is that?
Yep, so we still have to plan that, so, like, probably the biggest things I can think of that are really hard to cover are gonna be the baseball field, softball field, the main competition field, so turf is expensive. Doesn't need to be very often, but when you have to replace it, it's pretty expensive. Like the bleacher system, when that has to get replaced on the turf, like, that's a big deal. Or if we had to pull out, I mean, we're putting in the field house, right? But if we had to pull the bleachers out of the main gym and put that in, that's another like big one-time expense that is really hard to slot in. In terms of insurance, like, we have to have a storm hit, or we have to have, someone runs into the building and insurance kicks in. Like, you still have to have the same things you have at your house or with your auto in order to kick in for insurance. It doesn't kick in just because it's old and needs to be replaced. So we still have to meet all of that particular criteria in terms of that, but like, we have, not on the 10-year plan, because they don't need to be replaced in 10, but in thinking 25 years out, like the football field and the competition field is back on there, even though it got replaced last summer. Like, it's on there for about 14 years from now.
Yeah.
The baseball and the softball field are probably sneaking close to the 10-year capital improvement plan. They're probably at 11 or 12, and they're gonna work their way onto that plan. Those are dollars where we look at and go, okay, that's not it's a CIP project in name. It's not a CIP project in funding, because that would eat, probably the baseball field to replace is probably gonna eat 60% of that $1.3 million, because a baseball field is by far the largest turf field to replace from an expense standpoint. And when we think about the competition field, next time, so this past summer was roughly $480,000. The next time, we're probably looking at a $700,000 to $800,000 replacement, because there will be curb repairs, so they're all attached like by an outside curb, and it's all anchored to that. Well, that only lasts so long and through so many replacements before you start replacing parts of that curb, which also then make it a significantly larger project, so we have to start tacking in those ideas. But those make it to the plan, and then we think about are we saving enough Fund 46 dollars in the process to make that? Because again, those are large chunks of change to take care of, but they eat up so much CIP, they can't be a CIP project and then still expect Andy to manage roofing and boilers and all these other things that have to get done on a yearly basis, because we have so many roofing systems, and if we don't replace them this year, right, we just start the domino of poor management of CIP funds and pushing things down the road and kicking the can, and then running into this $96 million problem.
One more last question is that, with the hailstorms which happen around the spring season, if there's a hail happening, I know that in Franklin last year, I think 2 years ago, there was a hail damage. A lot of my neighbors got free roofs, just because of insurance. So do we as a district, if there's a hail, do we look at it and see, hey, if there's hail damage, then we qualify for a free roof, which will save us money down the road?
Yep, absolutely.
And our roofs are a little bit, they can handle some of that a little bit better, because they're EPDM, which is like a rubber roof, right? And they have insulation that kind of softens the blow of hail, so it's not likely to have that, but we do have some shingle roofs that there's potential there, so.
This is the part of the meeting where I say nice things about Andy. Congratulations on your success with the HVAC and, the HVAC and the electrician. That worked not just because the model was a sound model, but because you managed those people really well. Like you said, this is what I want you to do, and they were clear on their expectations, and you gave them latitude to move beyond it, so kudos to you on your leadership.
Well, thank you for your support on allowing us to move forward with those positions.
Sure.
So.
You made it easy to approve.
I think your passion,
sense.
I think Andy's passion, we can see as a board members, as a board member myself, I can see a passion to serve the district. And to be honest, it's a blessing to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
And to Angie's question about what keeps you up at night, I'm glad that there's somebody like you who will stay up at night so that I can sleep and not worry about the buildings and the roofs and whatever else. So Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thanks
I
for
got
all that
your
you're
phone
doing.
number, Don't I? Like,
What?
I'm gonna call you now in the middle of the night. and
You
wake
go
up.
right ahead. My phone is on, dude, no, I'm just kidding.
Good. So
Thank you
this,
so
this one
much.
we'll bring back for approval in the next
At
one.
our next meeting.
Thank you all.
Moving on, we're gonna talk about our 26-27 SWSA agreement. You guys all saw in the report the agreement that we would have. The question is if we want to continue with the SWSA or not. We talked about it last year, and kind of said we'd give it one more year and see what we got out of it, and then kind of make a decision from that. It seems like a lot of the information that we get from SWSA is around like political advocacy, which we're also getting from other avenues, WASB, the different district administrator groups and things like that. So the question is, how do we feel about continuing with that, or are we ready to not be a part of SWSA?
I mean, has it brought us positive experience or information? Like you said, if we're getting it from somewhere else, is it essential to continue?
I don't think
I
it's,
guess
I don't think it's, not- I don't think it's not positive, I just think it's redundant.
Okay.
That's
That
my
was-
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and that was kind of what we talked about last year. We thought we'd give it one more year. I've been going to the meetings now this year. I would agree with that it's all, I mean, it's a very nice group of people and, you know, relatively useful information, but it's also redundant information that we're getting other places, so.
Well, we gave it a year. Let's give it a year without.
I agree.
That's
That makes sense.
valid.
Yeah, it's not like we'd be blackballed, we couldn't reach.
Right, we can always rejoin if we think we're missing out on something.
If they start. I'm not gonna say it. Okay, then we would need,
I make a motion that we don't,
Thank you.
join SWSA for the 26-27
I second that.
school year.
okay, motion was made by Mr. Sprague, seconded by Debbie Larson. Do we need a roll call on that?
I don't think so.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you for that discussion. 9-week tuition waiver, Dr. Bennon.
All right, we have a tuition waiver that's linked. I know we've had these a few times this year, so looking at kindergarten student for next year, will they find housing in the district? The family understands that you have 9 weeks and you extended 9 weeks to do that. And if it doesn't happen in that time, then we can't continue enrollment. So just looking for action on that tonight. Sorry, or answer any questions.
I move that we accept the tuition waiver request as presented.
I second.
Okay, motion was made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Dr. Khan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approved, thank you. Our board self-evaluation discussion. Okay, so similar to last year, we would plan to do the WASB board evaluation tool. You remember that we filled that out, and then it gave us some good data. It ranks us kind of how we rank with other boards across the state, and then gives us some, you know, kind of how we are doing, what we can improve on, things like that. So the plan for that would be that we'll take that tool here in the next couple of weeks. We'll get that sent out, and then hope to find a time in the summer. We'll be sending out a doodle, which we all love and we respond to very quickly, to find a date that we could all get together for kind of a retreat around that evaluation tool, which will then help us set our goals for next year. Interesting this year, because we did do this tool for the first time last year, we would have actual comparison data so we can see how we've improved, or not, but how we've improved from last year and what things, you know, we've worked on to, you know, from this year, that we can then continue to work on in terms of our board development for next year. Thoughts, questions, concerns about that plan?
I like having the same, something to compare.
Sounds good.
In looking at trying to find a time, because we would be adding a night for this evaluation, is it helpful to stick with Wednesday nights when we send out a doodle, or should we send a more broad doodle and hope that we can find a night where everyone can be together? Looking at probably July and August, maybe?
I think you should send something a bit more broad.
Okay.
I prefer Wednesdays, but I think broad is fine.
I agree with Mike. I prefer Wednesdays too.
And it would be at 9.
It'd be, yeah,
Yeah.
generally. Yep, okay. We will work on getting that sent out. I joke, but it is helpful if we can try to respond to that quickly so that we can get something set. The sooner we can do that and line up our calendars, the more likely we are to have success with that, so. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, thank you. Treasurer's report is available in the board docs library, as it always is. Future agenda items, Buildings and Grounds Annual Report Action, the Capital Improvement 10-Year Plan Action at our next meeting, the 2026-27 Preliminary Budget First Read with Mr. Cromie. We will do District Administrator Evaluation in closed session. And then we will have Annual Academic Standards Adoption will be an action item. The 2026-27 Student Family Handbook will be an info item. Approval of teacher contracts action, and then the 26-27 Preliminary Budget will be an action item at our June meeting. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Yank, seconded by Mrs. Larson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 7:31.